And good evening, everybody, on this wonderful Monday. New documents have just dropped a little bit ago, so I wanted to go over these for this evening. So I want to thank you for, all as always at the last moment. I, just got home from work a little bit ago, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put these up tonight so you guys have the most accurate and best information out there. There's a lot of people trying to interpret a lot of that's going on in the Charlie Kirk situation, and I mean, even right up to the point where they're reading hand signals, and they've got Mormon missionaries running around with bags who have AR-15 straps, hanging off of them, and I mean, just crazy stuff. It's not a complicated situation other than right now, if they're looking for anybody, they're digging deep, into his social media background and into his influences. So it looked like, the kid came from a good home. He came from an LDS home right there in St. George, Utah. We Karen and I went and spoke to some teachers at the high school there. The community is a very tight knit community. They're all in shock, quite frankly. The kid, he had a very ultra conservative, upbringing, for lack of a better term, in a conservative LDS family. That's Latter-day Saints family. And, his father is a good man. His mother is a good man, or a good woman. Excuse me. I apologize. He went through all of the programs, that his church offered. And, all of a sudden he hits 18, gets a full ride scholarship to Utah State University. Even just prior to that, he excelled in high school, 4.0, goes to Utah State for about a month and one semester, a little bit more than a month. And all of a sudden figures out that, hey, I don't want to do this. Goes home about 6 hours south to his place where he grew up, enrolls in a community college, Dixie Technical for electrical. He wants to become a electrical contractor like his dad, who's also in the trades. And he then starts getting deep involved into all of this online, these subset craziness, furries, and all this other stuff that's out there in the dark web. And, next thing you know it, he's into the other side of it, where even the gay community is going, hey, we're not the trans community. We're different than them. And, there's a lot of infighting even within those two communities. Just ask me. I was a vice investigator from 1984 to 1986. Trust me, I have been in that underworld, and it's bad. It's bad. You can imagine these kids. And hi, Deborah. How are you? Look what's right in front of me. I got my coaster. Thank you. I see Deb from Spring Hill. Thank you so much for being here. Anyway, so imagine this kid deep into that, and now they're figuring out that hey, wait a minute. There's a lot going on in those communities, i.e., underground in the dark web. And what they're figuring out today, the authorities, you have FBI Director Kash Patel is saying, look, all options are on the table. We're never going to take anything off of the table. But quite frankly, it's not a complicated situation. All you do is you just check the boxes after, after you figure out what the general information is. And the general information at this point is they've got him on a ton of video, hauling that rifle up onto the roof, leaving with the rifle. They have his DNA on the trigger. They've probably done a laser trajectory. So they probably positioned the laser right where Charlie Kirk was sitting and put somebody up on the roof, and they, did a laser shot, which is, it's cut and dry at that point. And you can see where it hit the neck. I mean, initially I thought the impact was a little bit further below. I thought maybe he had been wearing something and that was a fragment. But at this point, it looks like it struck him right, on the left side there, hit the carotid, boom. And it was over. He didn't, thank the Lord, he didn't feel anything. It was over in literally a couple of seconds, as we all saw. So God was merciful to him, to take him quickly. But now all the conspiracies have started. You've got him at Dairy Queen, and yeah, okay, well, here's something that you're not going to hear anywhere else other than the interview room. And you can take this to the bank. He didn't leave that general area till about 1:00 in the morning. So he was there, but he parked like a mile away in a church parking lot or thereabouts in that geographic region. And he was intent on trying to get his grandfather's rifle back. It appears from my investigation that because it had such a sentimental value to him. And so he stayed in that area. And it wasn't until later that he jumped on the freeway and took off and went home. So the FBI has all of that information. They are pulling out, the vehicle information I talked about recently. They're trying to find out, was that car parked, which it appears it was. But if it wasn't, and we'll know it. If it was mobile, that's not going to be very hard to tell. And once that information, I don't think we'll know about it publicly, but once it is made public, then we'll all learn about it together. But, all these crazy conspiracies, I mean, quite frankly, it doesn't really look good for us as critical thinkers in this wonderful country, especially when you have platforms out there that are 1,000 times bigger than our platform. And so a lot of people have agreed or disagreed. Okay, that's okay. That's what Charlie Kirk stood for. It's okay to debate. It's okay to have a conversation, but we don't have to fight. No, we don't have to fight. That's the point. You have heard me say on this channel for the last 4 years, when we take away our ability to talk, then people will turn to bullets. And when that happens, it is all a different world. And, this furry stuff, I love that there's a video going around about a guy who got stopped by a cop and, he identified as a furry. The cop asked him for his driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. And the guy said, well, I'm a cat. And he said, okay, no problem. Then, I'll just go ahead and call the Humane Society, take you into custody, get you impounded and get you over to a vet to see if we can find your identity in a chip that's embedded in you. And, it was hysterical, absolutely hysterical. They were going to book him at the Humane Society, and that's some good stuff right there. I don't care who you are. That's funny. That is 100% funny because, now all of a sudden the guy had a driver's license within a couple of minutes. He was no longer, a furry. I don't know about you, but, when I was in high school, and I'm just going to use my high school experience, if there was somebody that far wackadoodle, hey, then we knew who they were pretty clearly. Okay. And quite frankly, I then saw them later on the street when I was working Vice because they hadn't changed much. They just grew up into some real weirdness. And let me tell you, that stuff is way off base. I can't tell you how many crazy stories I have. My sweet wife will tell you I have too many. Again, we don't get invited to very many dinner parties for that very reason. But when we do meet friends like Miss Deborah and Martino and our other friends that we met at CrimeCon, you guys know how I am. It is just absolutely nut jobs. And so in this furry community, this young man, that Tyler was getting into, and his roommate was getting into it. And it sounds like the FBI has, pulled all those discords. And if I was that kid, when I say kid, because I don't think he's matured quite into adulthood yet, even though he's 21 or 22, the roommate, that could really be problematic when Tyler finds out he was getting two-timed. Sounds like he had a boyfriend or at least somebody grooming him, the roommate, and Tyler was getting cheated on. That's not going to be very good. That's not going to be very good. And I think these kids, really dove into this stuff when, the COVID hit. When COVID hit, I really believe they went dark for quite some time into this dark web, into this deep part of, the world. And so it's sad to see because, if in fact that's where he was picking up his political positioning, maybe some of the arguments, maybe he was confused, et cetera. I mean, we don't know and we won't know. Okay. But to think that the CIA, the FBI, the Secret Service, the National Security Agency, all got together and said, you know what? Here's a plan. What do you got, Frank? Charlie Kirk's going to be at UVU. I think we should get some patsy kid, put him up on the roof, hand him his grandfather's rifle. And, while he's up on the roof, he's not going to realize that his rifle's empty. We're going to take the shot from down below. We're even going to include his security team. Charlie's security team's on board, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So how much is that bridge in Brooklyn again? Um, I can't believe it. And then, now you've got, some, these bots out there. You've got these little Iranian bots, the Chinese bots, the Russian bots. The Iranians are blaming Israel. You've got the Chinese blaming everybody because they just want heck to take place here in this country. And then, of course, you got the Russians blaming the Ukrainians. They're behind it. So all of these, conspiracy theories fit into one of those boxes. And I saw today probably the best one. There's in fact, let me see if I can pull it up real fast. It's almost hysterical. Here it is. Hang on just for a second. Give me a second, everybody. Okay, this one here is a keeper. I don't know about you, but everybody's been around the world and they've seen, the missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where apparently Tyler was also a member of that church. And this is Utah, right? This is like Mecca. And there are tens of thousands of missionaries around the world, okay, that have, this white shirt, jacket, the name tag, the bags, etc. I think this one's a keeper. Okay. This one here is this guy calls out a missionary. Watch this. Okay, there's your suspicious guy right there. Do you see this little name tag right there? That's one of the name tags that missionaries wear. Okay. You can't make this stuff up. Okay. All right. Now, this is the shooter now, according to this guy. This is the conspiracy. And guess what? This kid has a bag. Okay. And at the end of the bag, he's got a strap hanging out of it. And he's fleeing the shooting. You got a escaped missionary fleeing the shooting. And there's a close-up. Okay. There's his name tag. There's his, I think they carry their scriptures in that one and this one here. And he's got a sling there hanging out of the other bag. And that sling, by golly, is an AK-47. You can't make this stuff up. It's an AK-47. So it appears that Tyler Robinson is not involved, but rather that's your shooter that I just showed you a couple of seconds ago. Hang on for a minute. Am I missing something somewhere? And then we have credible people around the world on these great big platforms up there that are spreading these kind of things. Okay, guess what? We moved into conspiracy land there for a little while. So let's get into why we're all here tonight. Let's get into what's really going on out there. And what's really going on out here are facts from the state of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. And these are the charging documents. I'm not going to the first count here is aggravated murder, capital felony in violation of Utah code. And they give the number there. The defendant, Tyler James Robinson, intentionally or knowingly caused the death of Charlie Kirk under the following circumstances. The defendant knowingly created a great risk of death to another individual other than Charlie Kirk and the defendant, i.e., there were a lot of people at that event. And I guarantee you, as a experienced homicide investigator, they did a trajectory reenactment with lasers, probably even with the rifle. And so it says here, notice the conviction of this offense may carry the death penalty. This is a magic word, may carry the death penalty. A mandatory term of imprisonment for life without parole, or an indeterminate term of not less than 25 years, and that may be for life. So this is the reality of where we stand with Charlie Kirk as of tonight, September 22nd, okay, 2025. Victim target enhancements. What the enhancements mean is because he fired over the crowd, there was a probability or a chance of a probability that somebody could have been hit as that round went flying over everybody at subsonic speed. So the victim targeting enhancement, it says Tyler James Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because of Tyler James Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression. Now, if that kid, the missionary guy, or anybody else was involved, the one thing the state of Utah is telling the world today is at least Tyler James Robinson, okay, selected Charlie Kirk. So this kid chose Charlie Kirk for his political expressions. Now, what drives that? That's what they're trying to figure out. That's what they're trying to figure out. They're not trying to figure out if, Tyler had, guys dressed up as, missionaries or just craziness out there. If the trier of fact finds beyond a reasonable doubt, i.e., a jury, that the victim targeting enhancement applies, the sentencing judge or the Board of Pardons and Parole shall consider the defendant's selection of the victim as an aggravating factor, i.e., if the jury finds him guilty, then they also get to decide, well, why did he pick him? And if it was because of his political beliefs, i.e., against the furry community, the trans community, whatever this kid thought, and that's what they're assembling right now, currently, as this investigation keeps moving, okay? Whatever this kid thinks, you can use that as a targeting enhancement. Violent offense committed in the presence of a child. This is a no-brainer. There were a lot of kids out there that day, okay? There were a lot of kids that came to mourn him. There were a lot of kids who were suffering because of that day, including Charlie's children, including Charlie's wife, including anybody at that event who witnessed that horrific sight. And let me tell you, that is a horrific sight. I have been there. Trust me. Discharge a firearm in the direction of Charlie Kirk, knowing or having reason to believe that Charlie Kirk may be endangered by the discharge of a firearm, and the act caused serious bodily injury. Victim targeting enhancement, it basically says, look, there's a if in fact you believe that he fired at him because of his perception of his political expressions, the jury, you can use that as a enhancement. Violent act committed in front of a child, again, obstructing of justice. Tyler James Robinson with intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, i.e., hiding the rifle, his grandfather's rifle, It's not CIA rifle, NSA rifle, FBI rifle. It's his grandfather's rifle. It was gifted to him through his father and given to Tyler. That's why he hung out so long. He wanted to go back and get it. He hid it in those woods. And you may ask, well, what woods? These woods. I went there. I walked up in there. I have video of that. I'll show you later, not today. I was up there. So this is not some, NSA guy, dropping Tyler off saying, we'll come back and pick you up at 1 a.m. and take you home. No, the authorities know what they're doing, and they've got this thing moving in the right direction. And I can't believe, that we're not following this information. These are the facts right now. These are the facts. Obstruction of justice, conducting constituents offense will be capital felony or first-degree felony, i.e. he tells his roommate also, hey, make sure you pull up the, the email or, the text messaging and grab that note. Now, do I think the roommate could be involved? Here's what I think. Just my opinion. I'm not going to take him off the list yet. Personal opinion. I don't know how further he goes. Into this whole thing here. I believe that there is much more behind this furry thing, this trans thing that the roommate's into, and that quite frankly are pulling Tyler into. And do I believe that he could have been manipulated? Yeah, I do. Because it happens. It happens all the time in this country. Look at Watts. He killed his entire family over a relationship. So if this kid's confused about who he is, what he is, where he's headed, where he's, et cetera, and he's being manipulated, remember that they're discovering, I'll guarantee it, they're discovering that the roommate is involved in another relationship. Okay. And that relationship in of itself, Tyler doesn't even know about it. He knows it now. I'm sure he does. But I think if the text messages are significant here, he could have been trying to protect the roommate. We don't know the sequence and the time of when those text messages were sent. If they do an overlay on the data that they already know, i.e. through the car, through the camera systems, et cetera, if they do an overlay on this roommate's text messaging, et cetera, and those times don't line up, well, then, yeah, it's going to be problematic for the roommate. And so right now he's being charged with tampering with a witness, which is, hey, destroy the note. But now let's get into the probable cause statement. So this is Brian Davis of the Utah State Bureau of Investigations. Okay, so he's the case agent, or at least he's writing this affidavit of probable cause. Having probable cause to believe that the defendant committed the above listed offenses, submitted the following evidence in support of the filing of this information. Okay. On September 25th, 2025, at approximately 12:23, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed while speaking to a large crowd on the campus at Utah Valley University, UVU, in Orem, Utah, counts 1 and 2. Police found the suspected murder weapon, a bolt-action .30-06 rifle, nearby Over the next approximately 33 hours, police conducted a manhunt for the shooter until the evening of September 11th, 2025. Now, this is where rational thinking comes in here. This is the worst. I mean, these assassins are getting framed by the worst intelligence agencies on the earth, it sounds like, because they caught the last one. He killed himself on the roof in Butler, Pennsylvania. Luigi's in custody, so they got him too. That wasn't a CIA hit. And now they got this kid because he left a bunch of bread trails, crumbs, all the way up into sending the text messages. Now, remember, if this was premeditated with a intelligence agency, none of that stuff would have been found. None of it. I mean, come on, are we that crappy as a country, as an intelligence groups? That we're letting photographs of the kid that whacked Charlie Kirk out at Dairy Queen? Have we really fallen that far as our capabilities? I don't think so. You know why? Because it doesn't exist. It's crazy. When Tyler James Robinson surrendered to police, and by the way, hey, part of the play here, Tyler, yeah. After we whack him, okay, you got to turn yourself into the cops, but your photograph's going to be shown across the world so your mother recognizes you. Okay, that sounds like a deal. That sounds like a good deal. Okay, now you got to follow the script. Are you tracking me? Yeah, I am. Okay, great. And by the way, you've never had any training ever with an intelligence agency, right? No. Okay, so just change your Deb says he didn't leave breadcrumbs. He left the entire sandwich. Isn't that a true statement? Yeah. Hey, now, yeah, exactly. I love this. I love this. I should have expected this channel to spread conspiracy theories like a bunch of gossips. No one has ever found out if the roommate is trans. Okay. Thanks for playing. Okay, DNA consistent with Robinson's was found on the rifle's trigger. After shooting Mr. Kirk, Robinson hid the gun. Count 3. Discarded the clothing he wore when he fired the rifle. Count 4. And told his lover roommate to delete incriminating text messages. Count 5. And not to talk to police. Count 6. Children were present at the time of the shooting. Count 7. All right, the shooting. Turning Point USA, a nonprofit organization founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk, organized a public outdoor event to be held at noon on September 10th, 2025 at UVU. The event was the first in a series of similar events to be held at college campuses nationwide. Mr. Kirk is a well-known conservative activist, famous for these types of events where he discussed various political issues and debates with audience members. His events and comments have garnered a significant number of supporters and draw the ire of many who disagree with his political views. The event at UVU was announced far in advance and garnered significant publicity and interest. Consequently, several hundred people attended. Mr. Kirk was interacting with the crowd before the event officially got underway. Then, approximately at noon, Mr. Kirk seated himself under a portable canopy behind a table and microphone. He began speaking to the crowd and fielding questions from attendees. a format Mr. Kirk commonly used at his events. Mr. Kirk allowed his questionnaires to approach a microphone positioned directly in front of him, kind of like a chat. Mr. Kirk's team members were very close to him on his far right and left, as well as some behind his canopies and others at various close locations near him. The large crowd surrounded Mr. Kirk on three sides. Temporary metal fencing separated attendees from Mr. Kirk by only a matter of feet. Directly above and behind Mr. Kirk was the UVU Hall of Flags, an indoor walkway spanning several hundred feet with floor-to-ceiling glass windows, which overlooked the plaza where Mr. Kirk was seated. People were in the walkway at the time of the shooting. Why is that important? Well, that goes to the aggravating factors, that there could have been collateral damage. Had that round gone through and through, and we had a surgeon at the hospital already come out and say, look, the round was captured. They have the round. They're going to match it. I'll guarantee you they'll match it ballistically, et cetera. And, everybody is saying, well, that round should have gone through. Well, let me tell you something about a case I had one time. It was a fascinating case. This guy got shot right in the head with an AR-15. That's a 223 round by his girlfriend. Okay. That round hit his skull, traversed around the skull, and popped out the back of his head. And he survived. Okay. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. So when I heard that the round potentially didn't penetrate all the way through, we don't know if that round hit, back into a spinal column. If once it hit, it trajectory down, okay? And all these other things that can happen with bullets, because we don't know, okay? And that's probably what took place here. We'll find out, though. But this is the real information. This is the affidavit and the probable cause affidavit. So they're telling everybody here, look, there were people in the walkway at the time of the shooting, okay? Approximately 15 minutes into the event, Mr. Kirk was answering a question about a mass shooting by transgender individuals when a gunshot rang out. The bullet struck Mr. Kirk in the neck. He slumped to the ground almost immediately. The bullet's trajectory passed closely to several other individuals beside Mr. Kirk, including the questionnaire, who was standing directly in front of Mr. Kirk. Children were visible near Mr. Kirk's stage when he was shot. Okay. Mr. Kirk was rushed to a nearby hospital where he was declared deceased. The medical examiner's report is pending. I think in this situation, it's going to be clear where that round, the trajectory, and where that round was recovered in Charlie Kirk's body. The UVU surveillance investigation. At the moment of the shot, a UVU police officer was watching the crowd from an elevated vantage point. As soon as he heard the shot, he began to scan the area for threats. Believing the shot came from a rifle because of its sound, he looked for potential sniper positions. So apparently they forgot to tell him he's not in on the conspiracy. Hang on for a minute. He believed the shot came from a rifle because of its sound. He looked for potential sniper positions. He noted a roof area approximately 160 yards away from Mr. Kirk as a potential shooting position and rushed there to look for evidence. The suspected shooter's position is adjacent to an open, publicly accessible walkway, and it is. You can just go up a set of stairs, go up to a like a concrete overlook, climb over a small fence, and then you are at the sniper's position, which is a straight shot to where Charlie Kirk was sitting. The suspected shooting position is adjacent to an open, publicly accessible walkway. To access the suspected location, a person must climb over a railing and then drop to the roof only slightly below. That's what I was just describing. The UVU officer climbed over the railing and down onto the roof. He then walked to the suspected shooting position and confirmed a clear shooting corridor between the position and Mr. Kirk's seat, i.e., it was clear to take that shot. He also noticed markings in the gravel rooftop, consistent with a sniper having lain on the roof. Impressions in the gravel potentially left by the elbows, knees, and feet of a person in a prone shooting position. In that type of situation, what that officer probably did was secure that location. Okay? And it was later processed by the FBI and their evidence team out of Salt Lake, which is an incredible team, by the way. Okay. They should have had them, quite frankly, in Moscow, but that's another story. Police reviewed surveillance from the camera covering the roof and discovered that it recorded an individual dressed in dark clothing cross the railing from the public walkway and drop onto the roof at approximately 12:15. Now, it's my understanding that Charlie gets there almost at noon. And he appears watching the videos at, this is my timeline, at 12:08. Okay. And then at 12:15 now, the shooter is on the roof. So Charlie's in the crowd throwing hats, doing whatever he's doing for 7 minutes. The first question comes in at approximately 12:18. So he's on the roof for about 3 minutes. Now, we don't know what time he gets in the prone position, but I'm gonna say it's probably within a minute or two thereabouts. Climbs over the railing, I think, and this is my timeline that I'm reading from. I think he gets, it takes him a couple of minutes to get into this position. At 12:24, from what I can tell, that round, the round goes off. Okay. And within that time, he's jumping off of that roof at within a minute or two, 12:24, 12:25, and he's seen walking on video. So let's see what we've got here. Onto the roof at approximately 12:15. So Charlie's only been there 7 minutes, and this guy is setting up. The camera again captured the individual running across the roof and then low crawling to the area of the UVU, to the area the UVU officer recognized as where the suspect sniper had dropped into a prone shooting position. After a short time, which matches the known time of the shot, the individual rose and ran across the roof to the northeast. Okay. He ran across the roof to the northeast, which is that video I showed everybody. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's in my playlist here, where I showed where he jumped off, hit the ground, and then where he walked across the street and he hid that rifle. Now they are watching this on video. So they have him on video captured in all of this. This discovery led to an intense review of UVU surveillance recordings to attempt to track and identify the suspect. Surveillance reveals the following. at approximately 11:51 a.m., the suspect enters campus from the north. He is seen wearing a black shirt with an American flag in its center, a dark baseball cap, and large sunglasses. Apparently, he's not wearing a missionary badge and a slung over, you know, Bible tote. Throughout the surveillance, the suspect keeps his head down and rarely raises his head enough to get a clear image of his face. As he proceeds across the campus, he is seen walking with an unusual gait. The suspect walks with very little bending in his right knee or his right leg, consistent with a rifle being hidden in his pants. This unusual gait continues until the suspect is seen crossing the railing off the open walkway and onto the roof, where he leaves the camera's view. So they have him coming onto the campus, going up to the roof, going over the railing, and in this particular description here, they lose sight of him. However, a camera later captures the suspect as he runs across the roof to the suspected shooting position. So they see him running to the shooting position on another angle. Immediately after the shot was fired, so I'm going to say that they've got him shooting. Okay, that's what this is police writing here saying, look, we're just not going to say we saw it until court, because he goes into a past tense here. Immediately after the shot was fired, a camera captures the suspect running across the roof, carrying an item whose shape is consistent with a rifle. The suspect is then seen climbing down from the roof. He appears to drop the item he was carrying as he hits the ground in a controlled fall. He then picks up the item and runs toward the northeast end of campus. Extended crime scene investigation. Law enforcement officers followed the suspect's escape path to the northeast end of campus, where they believe the suspect left campus and entered a wooded area. In that wooded area, investigators found a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. The rifle contained one spent round and 3 unspent rounds. So what they did is he had 4 rounds. They found 1 shell casing from the round that was fired and 3 others in that magazine. Now, you have to understand something about this weapon. You load the weapon from the top down, okay? It's not a magazine that comes up underneath and slaps in. This weapon, you take 1 round, you push it in, take 2 rounds, push it in, 3, 4, okay? That's how the weapon is loaded. And then you take the bolt and you pull it back and you push it forward and push it down, and it locks that round into the chamber of this rifle, okay? If they have the bullet in Charlie and it's somewhat intact, which I would submit to you it's going to be, then there's what they call rifling in the barrel of this bullet. Think of it this way. If you have like a pen here, okay, as the bullet leaves the rifle, okay, as it's leaving the rifle, it is spinning, okay? In the rifle's barrel, there are grooves all the way down the rifle barrel. This bullet, as it's spinning, is picking up the grooves from the rifle barrel, okay? They will be able to take this bullet through ballistics and match it to the grooves in the barrel. Okay. I suspect they'll do that if that round is intact. Okay. Law enforcement officers followed the suspect's escape path to the northeast end of campus, where they believe the suspect left campus and entered a wooded area. Okay. That is this area right here. If you want to see more about that area, again, you can go to the video I did a couple days ago. I actually take you there. Where they believe the suspect left campus and entered a wooded area. In that wooded area, investigators found a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. Now, this rifle is really important because it was a gift from his grandfather. And that's why he wanted to hang around to his plan, according to his text messaging, and was to go back and get that rifle. Remember, his mother, who saw him on TV, said, "Oh my gosh, that looks like Tyler." The dad goes, "Holy crap, that is Tyler." So he calls him and he says, "Hey, where were you?" And Tyler allegedly tells him, "Well, I was sick. Okay. I didn't go to work. I didn't do blah, blah, blah." Okay. And now, from that point, okay, what's the first thing he says? "Where is the rifle? Send me pictures of the rifle." And Tyler doesn't answer him because he knows. He knows, okay, that he hung around till late into the evening to want to go back and pick up that rifle. But it was too late. It was too late. The rifle contained one spent round and 3 unspent rounds. This is consistent with the facts officers observed at the time of and immediately after the shooting. No shell casings were found on the roof. So that means he didn't pull the bolt back to eject the shell casing and then put another one in there. He left them, all 4 of them, 3 rounds and a shell casing in the rifle. No shell casings were found on the roof, suggesting a bolt action rather than an auto-loading weapon, and only a single round was fired. Each round in the rifle contained an etched inscription following fired cartridge, "No Tice Ball, OWO, what's this?" Second cartridge, "Hey fascists, catch," with some arrow symbols. Third cartridge, "Oh, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao, Ciao," which is Italian Mussolini for fascists. It was an Italian song. It was kind of like the rah, rah, rah song. Fourth cartridge, "If you read this, you are gay, LMOA." Now, what's interesting about this is, right, this is obviously political messaging of some sort. Okay. But it's got, there's a sexual overtone here. I mean, he doesn't say, "If you read this, you're straight." Okay. He's saying, "If you read this, you're gay." So there's almost like this, what the heck is going on here? Right? Because you've got this, Mussolini references, and then you've got the meme references, the first one, OWO, what's this? And then you have this subculture references in these 4 shell casings. And so that in itself is kind of weird. I'm going to answer this question real fast. Yeah, it was less than a split second. and he was at the intersection. He's trying to turn down there. It means nothing. The guy was trying to turn, and actually, I think they were in each other's way. That's my opinion. Okay. Okay. So going back to this concept, but thank you for that question, brother. So there's a whole bunch of conflict going on here with this young person who will be forever in prison if not in front of a firing squad. Now, he's destroyed his life, and oh my gosh, can you believe Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, at the funeral, just the memorial, to say, forgive them for they know not what they do. And then she reaches so deep into her own soul. And it's almost like she was talking to Charlie. I don't know if you guys heard that, where, she was asking for help, the courage, the strength. And, she says, I forgive him. Wow. It was, that was hard. That was heavy. That was heavy. You notice, though, she didn't say, but I don't want justice. The scales of mercy, right, and justice have to be balanced. That's what Lady Justice is all about. She carries a set of scales, justice and mercy. And what Erica showed was mercy. And now justice right now is up here. That mercy will come down here, and the court system will balance it to justice. Whatever that means. Whatever that means. But her relationship with the Lord was solid at that very moment. There is no understanding that grief at that moment but for her. She's the only one that got that could understand the depth of that suffering. Okay, that suffering. The rifle rounds and towels were sent to forensic processing. DNA consistent with Robinson's was found on the trigger. Other parts of the rifle, the fired cartridge casings, this is where his DNA is found, okay? So it's found on the trigger. It's found on parts of the rifle. It's found on the fired cartridge casing, 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and a towel. That is a very high mountain to overcome. That is a very high mountain, to overcome. It's crazy. Okay. It's crazy. Law enforcement was unable to immediately locate the shooter, so they published photos of the shooter from the UVU surveillance cameras and asked for the public's help to identify him. Do you notice how fast this occurred and why now it was ludicrous in the Moscow case to hold that car as long as they did? They wanted this information out immediately. This was a great call by law enforcement. Meanwhile, law enforcement continued to try to identify the shooter through other means. The Washington County investigation. On the evening of September 11, 2025, as law enforcement continues their investigation, Tyler James Robinson went to the Washington County Sheriff's Office with his parents and family friend to turn himself in. Okay. Look, the conspiracy theorist, your problem is with Tyler. Take it up with him, because he's saying he did this. His mother and his poor father at both of his parents, and I feel sorry for them. Their son is an assassin of one of the most conservative evangelical voices this country and the world has ever heard. World leaders are weighing in on his voice. Think about that power of one, the power of one voice on the earth. And all he wanted to do was talk. Not necessarily agree, but just talk. On the campuses in this country where that's where you do it, you're supposed to open your mouth and have free dialogue. It does lend itself to that. That's what colleges are about. That's what these environments are about. It allows us to agree to disagree like gentlemen or gentlewomen. It allows us to have this conversation like this and say, okay, I'm safe. I'm okay. It may not mean we agree. It just means we have the ability to communicate. You know, it's ironic when you hear people say, well, words are violent. Okay. Well, the scriptures are clear that, you know, the tongue is as sharp as a two-edged sword. And it's how we yield it. Okay. And violence in verbs or in words is much different than coming through the barrel of a rifle. It's much different. Shout out to Martino. What's up? Much different. So Tyler turns himself into Washington County Sheriff's Office with his parents. And the sheriff has said that dad and mom got hold of a friend of theirs who's a retired detective, said, hey, Tyler is the shooter. We need to turn him in. Can you imagine what that was like for a family who was struggling with a son, a wayward son, trying to figure out, where do we put our love at this very moment? Do I love him beyond understanding? The answer is yes. Do I hide him from an all-knowing God? The answer is no. And what does he do? What does mom do? What does the grandfather do? The grandfather who gifted that boy his grandson, his hunting rifle, a deer hunting rifle. And all of a sudden, they're faced with a decision that no man or woman would ever want to be in. I love that scripture where the Lord on the cross, when he screams, Father, it is finished, after he says, why hast thou forsaken me? And it was at that very moment when the Father withdrew his spirit and left him on the cross. For you and me, for Tyler's parents, for Tyler, for Charlie, for the world. It was at that moment his father withdrew. And his mortal father now, Tyler's father, has to make a decision. I have to turn my son in. I have to turn him in. And he does that. I can't comprehend that. I don't know what that means. But I have stood next to many families on both sides of the aisle, the suspects' families and the victims' families. And I've watched them all suffer. It's not anything anybody wants to go through. Trust me. Robinson's mother stated the following to police. On September 11, 2025, the day after the shooting, Robinson's mother saw the photo of the shooter in the news and thought the shooter looked like her son. Robinson's mother called her son and asked him where he was. He said he was at home sick and that he had been at home sick on September 10th. Robinson's mother expressed concern to her husband that the suspected shooter, looked like Robinson or Tyler. The father agreed. Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Tyler had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. This is the mother speaking, who is talking about her son. This is her thinking out loud to the authorities. This is not the NSA, the CIA, or a multi-pronged conspiracy. This is a mother's love, which is incomprehensible, unbinding. This is a mother's love expressing her feelings about what she was seeing in the development, the emotional, behavioral development of her child. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father. Now think about this. You have a very far, probably, a right positioned family, religious family. And now there's a conversation about, Dad, I'm dating a guy who is transitioning to be a girl. And Dad is probably going to blow a gasket because his generation and this generation are clearly different. Maybe his moral compass is different than ours or somebody else's. But that's okay. That's what Charlie Kirk stood for. That's okay. To have these conversations with the world. It's all right to do that. They have very different political views. This is the mother of the shooter talking about her husband and his relationship with his child. They had differences. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which it should say Tyler, said was a stupid venue for the event. Tyler accused Kirk of spreading hate. There's a Rutgers study out. I may go over it. I talked about it with Josh Ritter last night. 38% of those who responded said it was okay to shoot somebody and assassinate them in this study. 38%. That's almost like 4 out of 10 feel that you cannot have an opinion unless you only agree with them. That is crazy. That is crazy. Fathers reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle the police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift, i.e., his grandfather gave it to him as a hunting rifle. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Tyler. Tyler implied that he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home. Now, think about this. These are the dynamics that are taking place, and this is a fluid incident. Tyler, yeah, send me pictures of the gun. Or let's back up. Mom, honey, I think this is Tyler. Let me see. What are you talking about? Oh my gosh, that is Tyler. Tyler, where are you? Oh, I've been sick. Yada, yada. Okay, your father wants to talk to you. Hey, show me pictures of the gun. Nothing. Now, they've left off a lot of the conversation here, but can you imagine having a conversation with your child now and you're trying to talk them out of hurting themselves? Okay. That's what this is saying. He wanted to hurt himself. And his parents are trying to keep him here in an earthly existence. They were able to convince him, Tyler, come home. Please don't do that to me, Mom, hypothetically. Don't do this. Please. As they discussed the situation, Tyler implied that he was the shooter and stated that he couldn't go to jail and just wanted to end it. So he's basically telling his parents, I did it. I want to check out. When asked why he did it, notice that sentencing, when asked why he did it, do you realize the parents are going to have to go on the stand and testify against their son? This is crazy. Wow. Tyler explained there's too much evil, and the guy, Charlie Kirk, spreads too much hate. They talked about turning himself in and convinced Tyler to speak with a family friend who's a retired deputy sheriff. At Robinson's father's request, the family friend met with Robinson and his parents and convinced Tyler to turn himself in. So the phone rings. Hey, Frank, yeah, get over here right now. What's up? Tyler's the shooter. And he must have had enough of a relationship with that family to be trusted to where Dad would call him. and he wants to hurt himself. Please get over here. I need your help. And Tyler trusted him enough. Kudos to all involved, mom, dad, friend, for keeping Tyler with us so that justice could be served. The family friend spoke to police and reported, telling Tyler that it would be best if he brought all evidence with him to the sheriff's office to avoid police having to search his parents' home. The family friend also asked Tyler if he had any clothes that related to what he did. Robinson replied that he had disposed of the clothes in different areas. Okay. Now think about that. These are the family dynamics going on here. And in the interim here, the sheriff is trying to figure out, holy cow, we've got the shooter almost 3.5 hours away. The roommate. Police interview Tyler's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Tyler. The roommate told police that he was receiving messages from Tyler about the shooting and provided those messages to police. On September 10th, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, "Drop what you're doing, look under my keyboard." The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." Police found a photograph of this note. The following text exchange then took place. After reading the note, the roommate responded, "What? You're joking, right?" Robinson, "I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I got to grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep the secret till I died of an old age. I'm sorry to involve you." Now, think about this. I've talked to some folks about this particular sentence here. It's my opinion, this kid is so immersed into the gaming culture or into this culture where you're just kind of in a fantasy constantly, right? That things aren't real. Okay. That I think a part of him really felt like, he could just reset the game and start all over again. Because here he said, "I had hoped to keep this a secret till I die of an old age." What? Okay. That tells me he's not clicking on all cylinders right now. And I think this will end up ultimately being a mental health case. Whether or not that's admissible in Utah, which I know it's probably not, I think the defense is going to play on that considerably. Roommate, you weren't the one who did it, right? Robinson, "I am. I'm sorry." I thought they caught the person. And this is interesting. This is Tyler telling his roommate that no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. "I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of the town got locked down. It's quiet. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering." Why? Why did I do it? Yeah, I had had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence, going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully, they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding out. This is why he's at the Dairy Queen hours later and why he really doesn't leave that area until well after midnight. Okay. He's hoping to get back to that area to grab the rifle. So he's monitoring the news, obviously through his phone and probably through live feeds or all kinds of stuff. And he even sees that the old guy, who later on they get all kinds of CP on his phone. Okay. What a delightful citizen that guy was. Okay. But this kid he's living in this as if it's not real scenario. And that he thinks, okay, I'm going to go back and get my stuff here. Okay. And then I'll be home. Okay. And we'll reset the Xbox. How long have you been planning this? A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. So he drove over there. He drove back there. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle, which, by the way, I have information it was parked at least a mile away. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits, didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the F will I explain losing it to my old man? One thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? Now this is a problem for the roommate. If he says, yeah, I remember, okay. Well, if he had prior knowledge and knowledge after the fact, he could be not only an accessory after the fact, but he could also be a co-conspirator to the homicide. And so I think that's probably where the feds are also chasing it down to kind of get to, hey, there's a problem here with the roommate. And that's probably why they're digging deep into Discord, Steam, a variety of these other platforms where these individuals in this particular case were hanging out. He's probably deep into that situation. So remember how I was engraving bullets? That's a question. The effing messages are most likely a big meme. If I see notices bulge UWU on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really effing stinks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa Gunn does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. Robinson, delete this exchange. Robinson, my dad wants photos of the rifle. He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it is very unique. He's calling me. I'm not answering. Grandpa knows too. So you got mom, dad, grandpa, probably little brother, and Tyler. How do we go from all of this to the CIA, the NSA, multiple hand signals, and all this, to her putting up Erica, they've got it online, people saying, oh, she was putting up a devil sign. This is love in sign language. Yes, right? Okay. Seriously? Have we lost our ability to think critically? Apparently we have. I mean, I don't know. Go figure. Since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff's. You are all I worry about, love. I'm much more worried about you, Robinson. Don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. Good legal advice. The search of Robinson's residence. Police executed a search warrant on Robinson's residence. During that search, police discovered a shell casing with etchings like the etchings found on the shells in the rifle near UVU. Police also found several targets with bullet holes in Robinson's home. So they go to his house and they pull shell casings with etchings similar to the ones on the one in the rifle. Count one. Aggravated murder pertains to Robinson's shooting and killing of Charlie Kirk in a manner that exposed others, in addition to Mr. Kirk, to a great risk of death. Count two. Felony discharge of a firearm pertaining to Robinson's shooting towards Mr. Kirk, knowing that doing so would endanger those in the bullet's path. The shot caused serious bodily injury to Mr. Kirk, ultimately resulting in his death. Count three. Obstruction justice pertains to Robinson's removal and hiding of the rifle he used to shoot Mr. Kirk. Count four. Obstruction justice obtained or pertains to Robinson's removal and hiding of the clothing he wore when he shot Mr. Kirk. Count five. Witness tampering pertains to Robinson's statement to his roommate, telling his roommate to delete their text exchange that followed the shooting. Count six. Witness tampering pertains to Robinson's statements to his roommates, telling the roommate, if any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. Count seven. Violent offense committed in the presence of a child pertains to Robinson's shooting of Mr. Kirk in the presence of children under the age of 14 who were visible at this event. Based on evidence received from Brian Davis of the Utah Bureau of Investigations, I have reason to believe the defendant committed the offenses as charged herein, authorized for present and filing December 16, 2025, Utah Attorney General's Office, Jeffrey S. Gray. That is the charging documents. This is a photograph of the memorial that Karen and I walked up to while we were at UVU. It was very moving. It was extremely moving. There were children there that were crying. I mean, let's just think about that for a moment, shall we, as a society and as friends in this chat. Think about the fact that there were at least, a couple thousand people there, probably. There were so many there that they all felt comfortable enough to say, hey, Charlie Kirk, this guy, he's a little controversial, in terms of difference of opinions, et cetera. But they felt comfortable enough to take their children. That is really interesting because the children are innocent. They don't even know what some of the topics were going to be discussed. Probably half of them, depending on their ages. But at the same time, they don't understand the concepts that you and I understand. And here these children are, and they are forever traumatized because that round, they probably heard it go over their heads. And if they saw it, we don't know what the long-term effects are going to be on the innocence of those children. But I can tell you, by standing at this memorial, this was within 2 days, this picture, by standing there were children crying because they didn't understand what we were doing in our society. And it reminded me of when I was a child and Robert Kennedy, John F. Kennedy were shot. I didn't understand. I didn't understand when Robert Kennedy was shot by Sirhan Sirhan. I didn't understand when Martin Luther King was shot. But I did understand when John Lennon was shot and executed by an assassin. I did understand when Ronald Reagan was shot. And I understand when Charlie Kirk was shot. And I want to tell you something. I hope we all understand that when we take away words, they are replaced with bullets. I hope we're better than that as a country, because I see each and every one of you as my fellow Americans. And even though sometimes we agree to disagree, we can agree like Americans or disagree like Americans. We shouldn't be in this position. I thank you so much for being here this evening and for sticking with me and Karen on this channel. I would ask you that you hit that subscribe button or at least share it with your friends. There were people that just decided they didn't like me anymore. And I'm okay with that. This too shall pass. And there's an old saying that no man got to the top of the mountain by falling there. If you can help me get to 300,000 people by sharing this with people that are like you, I would ask you to please help me do that. I'm trying to get to 300,000 subscribers, but I need your help. If you can help me, I would be grateful. As they say in Hawaii, biakamai. Let's keep taking care of each other. Until the next time, aloha.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? retreat. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now, we're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now, we're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down, we're going away. Yeah, we're going away, you and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a way.